طبيبنا وحبيب الله رب العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم بقية الله خير لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأشرقت الأرض بنور ربها صدق الله العظيم. صلاة محمد The continuation of the discussion of the phenomena of love in the school of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We reached to a point where we mentioned that Allah loved Himself, and because of that He has created the creation, as He was the hidden treasure. Now the question of loving oneself is to be discussed in a bit more detail to really understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really means, and is it really possible that one really can love oneself? Because the desires, the attraction, or the love that we all have in us is or points out to a duality. It's two things, that I'm loving something, I'm desiring something. It is me and that thing. And is it really possible that a person would love himself instead of liking or loving something else? The possibility exists or not. If we look at that, the reason I'm liking something is because I don't have that in me that I'm liking it. Right? That thing is not in me, that's why I want it. I want it, like for example a property or a house or the occupation, the king, they go and keep on conquering land after land because they don't have it and they want to have it, right? And to expand their kingdom because they don't have it. So now when we are saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved Himself and He created the creation because He loved Himself, according to the hadith that we have of the Prophet, then is there, na'uzubillah, Allah was limited that He created, because He did not have that, so He wanted to, that sort of question arises, right? But if we look at our love for ourselves, philosophers also have discussed this, we find that yes, it could be possible that I like to eat and at the same time I like to wear. It's one love of myself to different quwaha, to different perceptions, to different sort of senses that I have. But my existence is only one. It's not two things there. You see what I mean? There's me and mine. The other sort of qualities that I have, within this one wujud, I'm doing that. That it's not necessarily because I don't have it, but it is because I'm loving it, and as I'm one, and that thing that I'm getting is not becoming one with me as such in a way at the same time. So therefore the possibility, if a wujud, as they say, or if your existence is absolute, or in Arabic or Farsi or Urdu they say basit, if a wujud is basit, if an existence is absolute of having all perfections, still the possibility exists that it likes itself. That possibility is there. That the very same way as I like my different quwaha, at the same way as I like my different sort of qualities within myself, right? Although I have it, not necessarily that I'm acquiring from somewhere, but I have those qualities, I love it and I like it. That I have these qualities, not that I'm taking it from somewhere else. On the same token, now we'll take another step to really, as we said last night, to resolve or come to the understanding of this love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. What is it in the existence, in the wujud of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved them so much that whatever they say, Allah will accept. no matter how much the person has committed errors and sins, he does tawbah, and if he intercedes, seek help from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and if Imam Hussain alayhi salam accepts, he will be forgiven, right? What is it really that in the Ahl Bayt? And that is the sound belief of ours, and that is أَوَّلُ مَا خَلْقَ اللَّهِ النُّورِ. As we were discussing earlier, nothing existed, right? Nothing existed. It was nothing. It was nothingness. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, if you want to say. And the Quran says, kun fayakun. That's the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So nothing existed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said something. That is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to create it. What did he say? He said, be. Kun means be. And it becomes. Right? Allah says, be. So as there was nothing, and here Allah says, be. Kun. And the hadith which we have from Masumi alayhi salam here, that I have the reference, he says, when Allah said, said, be, and that was the first thing, that kun was nothing but that first Muhammadan light created. That was the nur of Muhammad was created first. I know it's a bit philosophical and heavy, but this is our core belief, that the first thing created is the Muhammadan light, and somehow we'll come to, it cannot be comprehended and understood by Aql. Even the great philosophers have discussed, and they cannot, but still we'll come to some understanding of it with the help of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, with the barakat of Majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, with Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because Allah Himself, you see the aspect of nur. Allah Himself has said that Allahu Nur Samawat wal Ard. Allah is the light of heaven and earth. Is Allah light really? Light is a creation of God. Not that Allah is light. But He's saying Allah is the light. He's relating this, which is creation itself to Himself, which is that very word, which is that very word, and that becomes that first creation, which is that light. Because, as the Prophet have said, أَوَّلُ مَا خَلْقَ اللَّهُ نُورِ نَبِيَّكَ يَا جَابِرُ. That hadith from the Prophet. First thing that God created, O Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, right? Is the nur of Nabi, the nur of the Prophet. And the hadith that I was mentioning from Hazrat Amir was this, that when Allah said, be, and the first thing created was that light. And then once again Allah said the second word. As there was silence, the first word was light. When He says the second word, that becomes the ruh. So the level of nur is higher than ruh itself, which Allah says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. I breathe into Adam my ruh, my spirit. So nur is higher than that. The creation of light, the creation of nur is higher than that. And in the margin, for practicality, so that we understand these darajat, in terms of spiritual wafering, when a person does the spiritual practices through zuhud, taqwa, and all of the different sort of practices that is there, these are all the darajat that he transfers or transcends and reaches to that level of nur. He would, by practicing Islamic teaching, by being very dedicated to the Sharia, to the law, to the ahkam, and mustahabbat, he sort of excelled in these darajat. One after the other, he sort of reaches. He reaches the level of, imagination, which is also a level where we imagine things, we see things, our dreams, for example. That is a level, that is a maqam. That through spiritual practice, he will dwell there and he will live there. What was Adam doing here in this dunya, but he was in Jannah at the same time? How was that? Adam wasn't in Jannah as Jannah somewhere else in heaven. No. Adam was on this earth. He has been created from this earth. He was here. But at the same time, the Quran says Adam was in Jannah, and then we sort of, kicked him out of the Jannah from the heaven. Where was Adam? Was Adam in somewhere heaven or somewhere else? No. Adam was on this land, on this earth. But he was in the Jannah Barzakhi. He was in the Jannah of this world. While walking on this earth, he was already in Jannah, which the qualities of Muttaqeen, Hazrat Amir al-Mumineen in Khutbah Muttaqeen describes. The Muttaqeen are those people who are already in Jannah while living in this dunya. They are already enjoying the fruits of Jannah, the taste of Jannah. They are already there. They are speaking to the angels there. They are, meeting with them. They are learning. They are educating. Where are they? Are they in that Jannah? That Jannah is something else, which is the hereafter, which we discussed last year, which is still not created yet, for us. For Allah it has been, perhaps, maybe. Why is that? We'll talk that later. So here, that Jannah is somewhere else, right? It's after. But Adam was here, Muttaqeen are here, they are here, and then they travel. Their ruh, their spirit and their soul travel. In the world of dreams, after that in the world of Malakut, the angelic realms they travel. They could describe, this angel means Israfil, this angel means Jibrail, this angel means Israel. They are all different, it's not one angel. This is insan who have come to the understanding of these, multiplicity even in the angelic realm. That is why there are different names of it. Because they are different. How do they know they are different? Because they have traveled while living here in this dunya. All of the Anbiya and Awliya. And the same way an insan, follower of Ahl Bayt, we all do. And then when they go these levels, they reach to the level of ruh. Where it says, Tanassalul malaikatu wa ruh, inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr, right? The ruh descends, which is a single being, not the arwah descends. It is that ruh descending, which is a maqam, which is a level in itself. And after that, after conquering that level of spirituality, they enter that level of nur, where they become one with the Muhammadan light. That is also a maqam and a level, where a person reaches and could reach. As I was speaking earlier, perhaps last night, in regards to Ibn Arabi, who was one of the greatest mystic sheikh, in his books, when he writes, he talks about these maqamat and these levels which have been unfolded, which he has traveled. So anyway, now going back onto our discussion of Nur. So what I'm trying to do here is, while discussing it from that theoretical point of view, pointing out to the practicality exists, and this is how the scholars or the spiritual scholars, when they write in regards to these maqamat, is on these bases. The structure is there, and they experience it and they write it and they come to the realization, oh, now they have entered that level. So Allah Muhammad wa and then that light, which is that maqam of Nur, Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, is that higher even than the maqam of the Ruh. And it is because of this very Nur, as it says in the ayah of the Quran which I recited, وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا. The Nur encompassed the whole creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is saying, وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا. The Nur of the Lord. Lord is something else, Nur is something else, right? And obviously, they also have pointed out to the darajat and the levels that exist between Nur and the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is something else, right? So here, it is this Nur, and by which Allah have created, by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have encompassed the creation. And we tend to look at this or see this in our ziyarat as well. In Ziyarat al-Jami' Kabira, there are clearly, verses which point out to, which is the ziyarat of the imams that we recite, which says that, خَلَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ أَنْوَارًا فَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ بِعَرْشِهِ مُهْدِقِينَ حَتَّى مَنَّ عَلَيْنَا بِكُمْ. This is the phrase in the Ziyarat al-Jamia which says, Allah have created you, because we are doing Ziyarat al-Imam, and we are addressing them, and we are saying that خَلْقَكُمْ, that Allah created you as anwar, as a plural, this is nur, different anwar, levels of light that exist, they have been created. With that sort of material of that nur that they have been created, and have placed them as a minna, has placed them as a test, for us, as a gift for us through which we are tested. Putting the hadith of Imam Hussain before he leaves to Karbala while he is speaking to Salma, the wife of the Prophet. Is there any way possible that you could escape? That you do not go? Oh, grandson of the Prophet? Imam Hussain said, no. How the people will be tested if I don't go? The whole purpose becomes that very test of us. I know it is difficult to really comprehend, and this is the only way that we could understand these things. That when Imam Hussain is born, Jibreel comes with the news that he will be killed, right? They cry. Well, how can we explain these traditions? And they are there. Can we say that this is predestined, so on and so forth? We get confused and we don't want to really discuss this. But it's very important that we come to certain understanding of this. And that will increase our iman and faith that yes, it makes sense. It's not just like a Hindu type of belief that, they were created and they are there and we just believe, we don't question it. No, our belief, our iman is based on aql, on logic, on intellect, on experience, right? We taste the halawa, the beautiful taste. We experience it and we know it. But, and we tend to kind of be proud of Deen of Islam, and we say it's very logical, it's very practical, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to that sort of spiritual beliefs that we are talking about, that Imam Hussain is saying, yes, God likes to see me killed. Hadith says. What is this? It doesn't really make sense. What is he trying to say here? How people will be tested. I know for the youngsters and for youth it might not be that sort of easy to digest. But once we understand this Khilqat-e-Nuri, what is this Khilqat-e-Nuri? What is this creation of the Muhammadan light? Then all things fall in its proper place. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So therefore, in that ziyarat itself, we address them as that. Now, when we are saying that they are created from this nur, even before the creation of this dunya, because we said, silence, and then that word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nur was created, and the spirit was created, and then in this spirit, the nur was blown into it, and from that, the bodies were created in which the spirit was blown into it. The hadith is very long and continuous. But now let's look at what do we mean by that the nur have been the first of creation. On the other hand, we see the Prophet came, so many, millions of years after. The Ahlul millions of years after. But we are saying they are the first of creation. And they have, the Shia belief this belief is very important, and they have emphasized, the khutbah Fadakiyah, the khutbah of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah Alayha, she mentioned that in the very beginning, in her khutbah mentioned at that time, that, the Rasul was chosen even way before the creation had been created. In that world of Arwah, in that spiritual world. She pointed out to that. So does that mean that they were the first of creation, meaning that before the earth, maybe 1,000 years before, 2,000 years, is it the creation being created in terms of the time they were early? Because time belongs to only physical realm. In that spiritual realm, there is no time at all. Once one enters into that realm of spirituality, أسرى بعبده الليل من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى وقال قاب قوسين. That's what happened to the Prophet. Prophet was taken from Masjid al-Haram, right, from Mecca to Jerusalem, and from Jerusalem to the heaven. And by the time when he returned back, Prophet traveling all of that in that spiritual realm, still the chain was still moving, or the water which was flowing in the what you call that gutter was still flowing, meaning it was almost no time. In that 1/10 of a second, or in no time, basically, just blinking of our eye, in that period, Prophet traveled to Faqan Qab Qawsayn Adna, where Jibreel discussions takes place. The hadith Miraj is there. He sees them in hell, how they are being punished, and he sees the angels planting the trees in the heaven, and then it's getting everything happened in that sort of blinking of an eye, because he traveled outside this physical realm. So when you enter that spiritual realm, you excel and you travel. Time doesn't make any sense. That's what the Quran says, right? From how did he travel? That physical, from Jerusalem to Mecca to Jerusalem is a 4-hour, maybe 5-6 hour flight, isn't it? But he traveled just like that. So what we are talking here in terms of the creation as the first of creation is that creation of the Rutbi on that level, not in terms of the time. However, for us to understand, we tend to say that yes, there's some traditions that 2,000 years before the creation of the earth and all that, they were created. Now, last night we mentioned this, and that was, there are different types of creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Different type of creatures. We believe in jinn, don't we? Right? We believe in jinn. And we know, everybody knows, all Muslims say that the jinns are created from the fire. Okay. So their base, the substance of the jinns is fire. They are created from that. Human beings and insan, we said they are created from the clay, from the mud. So our substance, is that real mud and clay, dust. However, fire compared to that clay is of a higher quality, greater material, And at the same time, there's nur, where Allah is saying, they are the khilqat of nur. They are created from the light. They are the nur itself. And from this nur, all of the other creation have been created, right? So as their creation is the creation of light, right? Their creation is the creation of light. But this doesn't mean, we mentioned this last night as well, I will repeat once again. When we are created with the clay, this doesn't mean that we are Khalifatullah right from the very first day. We will not reach that perfection. We really have to go through a journey. We really have to practice Deen and Islam and sacrifice ourselves and then reach that spiritual maqam. Although we are created from the clay, we have to fulfill that. The same applies for that jinn as well. All of the jinnah that have been created from that. And the same applies for the khilqatan nuri, for that spiritual, for those beings that have been created by light. They also have to go through that journey to really reach that maqam, to that level. And now, how this will fit in with the physical creation of theirs. Now let's come, to the understanding of that. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. For this perfection of their levels of that nur, to come to that close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they are considered as the first of creation, is that they have to go through this journey, through this physical realm as well, when they are born. And as they are born, they fulfill that physical, material responsibilities that God has provided to them, and then they will carry that light towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The possibility, and they have that ikhtiyar, and they have that choice not to do so as well. It's not like someone is forcing them, but they have that choice, they cannot, and they leave that light, and it's gone. As clearly, other ayahs, verses of the Quran points out to that, for the mu'mineen. Yamshi bi, in Surah Hashr, we recite that Yutikum kiflayn min rahmatih. Allah will provide from that mercy a light to the mu'mineen. Forget the khalqat of their nuri, of the Ahlul. We will provide them a light through which they will walk on this earth. Shaykh Abbas al-Qumi, there's a tradition which has been reported in regards to him. Shaykh Abbas al-Qumi, the one who wrote Mafatih al-Jinnah. They saw that in Qom, it was very dark and it was night. And two of the students of Shaykh Abbas were following him, and as it was dark, they see some sort of, as soon as Shaykh opens his mouth, there's some sort of light coming out from his mouth. And it's showing the path, and he's walking. And then he closes his mouth, it's gone. Noor was coming out, right? Maybe it was the zikr that he was doing, the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, giving that light, that noor, because Allah noor samawati wal ardi, Allah is the noor, right? So if I say Allah, that's noor. That is how the verses of the Quran becomes noor for people, and they could read the incident of Karbala, right? One of my friends who is a rebirth, Ahmad Hanif, he says that how he was communist, he was from Canada, how he became a Muslim, he said, through the Quran. When I opened the Quran, I saw the verses of the Quran as noor. That's how the verses of the Quran are light and noor. So therefore, they saw this. So they afterwards inquired. Somehow, Shaykh, found out that someone is following that. And he says, do not mention this to anyone. This noor is really that very spiritual maqam that a person reaches and is able to see in the darkness. Whether that be in this dunya, and Surah Hadid we recite, that Allah will give them, the mu'mineen and mu'minat in Surah Hadid, that Allah will provide them with the light on the day of judgment through which they will walk, and the people who are next to them, for example, and if they are sort of kafir, if they are bad people and evil people, they will say that we want to get this light. And Allah will address them and will tell them, go back to the earth and get that light. But there is no way that they could go back to the earth. So that noor, that light, is that very word, those very practices, that very ruhaniyat. So as they are created from that material of noor and they have that with them, for example, you could say, وَأَيَّدْنَاهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ. You have that verse as well, right? That we help him with that Holy Spirit to the Anbiya and Awliya. And at the same time, this attraction, this connection, this pull of ours that we are blessed with, that we could discuss and understand these riwayat, and that we could believe in it, is nothing but that very noor which is with us. Our Ahlul Bayt al-Musallam. Which I don't want to open up another discussion, which is a discussion of Alam Azar, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions, that before this Alam, there was that Alam, that sort of spiritual creation that Allah have created all of us and asked, am I not your Lord? The whole creation says, Qalu Bala, we accept that you are the Lord. But we don't remember, however. Why we don't remember? That is something else. So, the life of ours in the spiritual realm is there. One cannot deny that. We think that we are only existing in this physical realm. Our spirit is not here. We are sitting at present on a very high level that we cannot even imagine. That is why it says the angels are spreading the wing under the lovers of knowledge, under the majalis of Imam Hussain al-Islam, right? But we do not see that. Because our eye for that spiritual world hasn't been opened up yet. Once that happens, and that's what death is. We just disconnect and we dwell into that realm that we have reached in terms of our spiritual realm. So we all got that noor, that light with us. And whether that be that light that we have said Qalu Bala in that realm which is supported by the Quran, or whether that be that light that we have accepted, that wilayat, and that light remains with us and it increases by our understanding, by our marifat of Ahlul Bayt and this is what it means, that where certain, the where it says, you know, في أيام دهركم نفحات, you know, in your life, when you are living, there are certain sort of cold breezes that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one really have to make utilize of these breezes that are coming from Allah. You know, these majalis, these sessions, these iradat, and showing our love to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is one of that we tend to do. So therefore, they were a creation which were brought into this world. They have that physical reality towards them, and at the same time they have this light, you know, with them. And it is not that this light was forcing them to be masoom. No. They had that full choice. And many who were from the family members, for example, they lost it. Many who claimed themselves to be imams like Jafar Kazzab, so on and so forth, isn't it? Right. So, to the extent we have so much of emphasis on the traditions, so much of emphasis in the traditions in regards to the Khilqat of Noor, that the fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, that once we were created, and then after that, you know, in that alam of Noor, when we were created, and after that, the angels thought that we are God. That the Noor of them was so powerful and strong. And then we did tasbih. We praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the angels learned how to do tasbih from us. And then we did takbir. And then we did tahliyah. All of the azkar and the dhikr that we have today was from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and that's what we read. That anything that is good, nafahat fi ayyam dahr minkum, right? The hadith which I just recited, there are these cool breezes that comes from the divine, from the Lord, is because of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They are the source of goodness. Because the angels have learned tasbih through them, and when I am doing tasbih, it is because of them. And they are part and parcel of that sawab that I will gain. That's why their level is so high. And that is why on the day of judgment, you know, is the place where one would be able to fully comprehend and understand what is this khilqat, what maqam that they have, on what level that they are. Now, as we are approaching the Masaib, I'll mention, you know, one incident in regards to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, which I promised 2 nights ago, that there was Prophet took the family, the Ahlul Bayt, the Ali Abba, to Baqi. And as he took them all, you know, Prophet was alive, so you know how old will be Hassanain, right? 5 years, 4 years, that age. He took them all, and Prophet saw a young lad in Barzakh, in the hell of Barzakh, in fire. The angels were punishing him, and he was burning in fire and complaining. The Prophet took them to that grave and showed them, and they were seeing that because they had that inner eye. And this lad was suffering there, and the Prophet inquired that what is the reason. He says that one day I returned back home from work, and then my wife complained of the mother. And then I got really upset and angry. And as she was cooking near the tandoor, you know, near that place where she was cooking near the oven, I went and pushed her inside the oven, and she was burnt there. And then after, anyway, she did not die, but she raised her hands and she said that let the sun burn in hellfire. She has done that sort of dua or curse in regards to what the son had done in return of what he was informed by the wife. And this is what happened. So the Prophet, you know, Rahmatullahi Alameen, obviously, right? The Prophet, you know, inquired where is his house, and we'll go find out, call that mother and ask, you know, the mother to forgive the child. You know, he's suffering. She was called. Prophet requested that forgive your son. And I can see he's burning in hell. And then she said, no, I'm not, because I was hurt and I'm suffering because of what he has done to me. Then she rejected the request of the Prophet. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen stepped forward. This is Rasulullah, he's the Prophet, he's requesting you, have some, respect for him. He said, no. Then Bibi Fatima went forward and said, these two personalities are great personalities. He's Rasul and he's Amir, the Khalifa. Then maybe, the Prophet asked Imam Hassan alayhi salam, maybe she would have some raham and mercy towards Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan stepped forward, Imam Hassan also requested. Nothing happened. And then Hussein turned towards her and he says, mother. And then she said, I forgive you. We have a shock. This is Hussein. That what happened? That Imam Hussein did not even request, he intended. And she addressed that lady as mother. And then as soon as she listens, he says, I forgive him. And that young lad who was suffering in Basra was forgiven. He was taken out of from her. Then later on they inquired him and inquired her and asked her that what happened. And she said, when Hussein said, mother, the heaven opened up and I saw these ranks of angels prepared and ready to attack me. And I cannot even, really say anything, but I said I forgive him. This is Hussein. This is the support that Imam Hussein had. This is the effect of Imam Hussein. This is his position in Maqam. That nur. But at the same time, it was in this dunya. And that whole episode, the epic of Karbala, is that. It's a vehicle of forgiveness and salvation through Hussein, through the blood of Hussein, through the sacrifice of Hussein. It really changes us. It really shatters our heart, prepares us to really recognize and realize who we are and who is Hussein, and go in that direction. And the companions, the family, they were of the same accord. They knew and they recognized and realized who Hussein is. He is the last of the Al-Yaba. He is the last from the Ahl Kisa. His blood is so important. No matter what, it should be protected. No matter even for a second, his life and his presence should be there on this earth. And it will benefit. Even if that be for a second. Because he is Hussein. He is the last of the Al-Yaba. It is that important. And their sacrifices, their blood will be rewarded for that. Even if 1 minute is spare of Hussein on this earth. When Hazrat Ali Akbar comes to seek permission to go into the battlefield to sacrifice his life, Imam Hussein said, Bismillah, you go ahead. And we've been mentioning that every time when other ashab, other family members comes to Imam Hussein they ask about going to the battle, sacrificing their life, going for the war. They say no, it's still time to stay, so on and so forth. But when Ali Akbar comes, Imam Hussein said, go ahead, without even thinking twice. This is where Imam Hussein wants his son to achieve that daraja, which is that shahada, that martyrdom, as swiftly, as quickly possible, or is it that the purpose of Imam Hussein is to teach them that if my son is nothing when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am sacrificing that without any sort of hesitation. I am giving it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Hussein, he himself prepared Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam, brought the armor, tied the sword, tied the amama for Hazrat Ali Akbar and Hazrat Qasim. These the reports tend to point out to. And Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam, in terms of his physique, in terms of his appearance, in terms of his logic, in terms of his understanding, where he says that what difference does it make whether we go to death or death comes to us. That is his approach towards death. That's how he regards death as. He's not afraid of it. So here, and also they say Hazrat Ali Akbar resembled the Prophet most. People in Medina who wanted to see the Prophet, they would call Hazrat Ali Akbar to really see how Prophet looked like. You know, when they missed the Prophet, they would see Hazrat Ali Akbar how Prophet. They wanted to hear how Prophet recited the Quran, they would ask Hazrat Ali Akbar to recite the Quran. They would ask Ali Akbar to give the azan. You know, they would be astonished by the beauty, because Prophet was very beautiful. They had that attraction and that pull. And Allah provided to the Imam Hussain Salam because of the love in the form of Hazrat Ali Akbar. And one of the hikmat secrets perhaps behind the azan of Ali Akbar, which is very famous. Imam Hussain says, Beta, oh my son Ali Akbar, go give azan. It is the time of Fajr. The morning azan was given by Hazrat Ali Akbar. At least those who are there in the enemy side would have some sort of respect towards that sound which really resembles Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. Here Imam Hussain prepares him, brings the horse and asks him to go. And raises the hand and tells, Oh Allah, bear witness, be my witness that I am sending Akbar, who is in exact resemblance, who resembles just like the Prophet. And there is no other who resembles more like him. And when Imam Hazrat Ali Akbar was going towards the battleground, he senses or he realizes that someone is running behind him. That is that old father, that love that the father has. You know, when you become a father, you realize the love towards your son. You know, you reach the age of 63 and over, right? And here Ali Akbar in that young, you know, in his youth. Some traditions point out to 18, but many authentic texts say 23 and over, right? Even that is very young, right? And he was running behind the steed of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And then Ali Akbar stops and he says, Oh father, you are the one who gave me the permission to go to the battlefield, and you are running behind me, you are in this state of, you know, stress, so to speak, you know, you are in this emotional state. You know, Imam Hussain replied, Oh Ali Akbar, you don't know the love of a father. To really see this youth where that father has spent all to really make him ready, tarbiyat and prepare. And they say if Ali Akbar wouldn't have become shaheed, he would be the imam. So it really tells the maqam of Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. So he goes and he invites, he gives the khutbah resembling the Prophet, speaks to the enemies. And according to the Arab tradition, one after the other, they started coming to fight with Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. He defeated them. It is the Prophet for whom it has been mentioned that when the battle would get intense, the Muslims will be behind the Prophet to protect themselves. That's how strong the Prophet was. So here's Ali Akbar, one after the other, 20s, 30s, 35, they attacked. They said it is not possible to really attack him in this fashion. We have to surround him. You know, one man, young lad who is thirsty. And here they are still attacking him. Here Imam Hussain alayhi salam gazing and watching the battleground restlessly and asking the women and children to pray for the life of Ali Akbar alayhi salam. Look at the attachment of the father to the son. And they raise the hand, and finally from that sort of battleground, a young lad cuts the ranks of the enemies and comes forward, reaches the tent of Imam Hussain. He says, Oh father, thirst is really killing me, because it's 3 days. And if there be a sip of water, I will show them what is the war, what is the how to fight a battle like the Prophet and like Ali ibn Abi Talib. I am Ali. Then Imam Hussain says, Oh son, why don't you place your tongue in my mouth? Perhaps this will provide you that sort of coolness to your mouth, to your tongue. Is this really the thirst, or is this the love of Hussain that is speaking here? At last hour, the son kissing the father, placing that tongue in the mouth, that closeness. And we have seen that, you know, when we are playing with our children, we give our tongue in that mouth, that love. So is it really Imam Hussain trying to say that, okay, perhaps you will, you know, your thirst will be quenched, or is it really the love of Hussain the love of the father. And as soon as Akbar puts that tongue, he pulls it back. He says, "Oh father, you are thirstier than me." And then Akbar goes back, and here Imam Hussain says, "Zainab, Allah, no longer raise your hands in dua. That hour have approached. That time of test has come." And then Akbar fights, and he was attacked. And there was a shaqi, there was an evil person who hid himself behind the tree. From there he attacks the chest of Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam, and he throws a spear, and that hits the chest of Ali Akbar, and he couldn't control himself. And when he falls down from the horse, that spear breaks and gets stuck in his chest. And as they are still attacking him, here Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he hears the call of Hazrat Ali Akbar, he goes like a falcon towards his prey. And as he goes there, he cannot see Ali Akbar. He says, "Call me, oh my son, call me." Because I cannot see. It's all darkness because of that love that Imam Hussain had for Ali Akbar. And finally, Imam Ali Akbar alayhi salam started calling his father. And when that dust settles, father is seen with his son. And look what the enemies were doing. When they saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the rule was the ending. They cannot attack or do anything because now the father had arrived. And father wants to speak to Ali Akbar, to his son, trying to speak, but Ali Akbar cannot speak because blood is stuck in his throat. And here, as the father wants to speak, the enemies surrounded Imam Hussain and Hazrat Ali Akbar. They started clapping, they started whistling, and they were making sound, and it wasn't allowing Imam Hussain alayhi salam to really speak. Then Imam Hussain would leave Ali Akbar and would fight with them, would send them back, and then will come back to Ali Akbar alayhi salam and once again tries to speak with Ali Akbar alayhi salam. It was a very similar scene that when we look at a lion when it wants to have its prey, and you have these hyenas trying to disturb him, the lion would go and would pull them back and would come back. So Hussain, the lion, was trying to speak to his son, trying that hour where his son is in pain. And here it says that finally Imam Hussain alayhi salam asked his son to put both hands in the neck of his father. Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam just put one hand. He's trying to hide something from his father because he knows that this father will not tolerate the pain, that if he sees the head of the spear stuck in his chest. And finally father says, "Oh Allah, put the other hand also in my neck." And as soon as he removes that hand, Imam Hussain says, "Ya Ali." And then Imam Hussain alayhi salam wants to take the spear out because it is hurting Ali Akbar alayhi salam. As he pulls the spear out, the head of that spear out, there was a flow of blood coming out from the chest of Ali Akbar like a fountain, and he rubs this blood on his mouth and looks at the heaven and he says, "I will meet my Lord in this fashion." And now here, while this was going on, the Rawi writes that I saw a lady coming out of the tent saying, "Wa Akbar, Wa Akbar." The lady who never attended to the bodies of On and Muhammad, to the bodies of her own sons. And here she comes and she places the hand on the shoulder of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And